the Lake Ripley Management District. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You do.
I do,
Yes.
actually. I'm calling the meeting to order, seeing as it's 9 o'clock. And we'll note that Jimmy is not here and that Laura Payne is not here. And I will ask for a nomination for Chairman Pro Tem.
I nominate Meg.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Do you accept?
I accept. Do we need an
Perfect.
all in favor?
oh, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Is there any public comment today? All right, hearing none.
John, if this would be the time if you would like.
Would you mind speaking into the mic just so that they can be sure to capture that?
Sure, I just wanted to address the board and talk about our subdivision development taking place just across the street. We've engaged an engineering service to start the engineering for the subdivision. Our schedule is such that we'll finish our engineering about this time next year and then submit bids for construction with hopefully construction starting in the spring of '26. There are 22 acres of wetlands and uplands property that we're going to donate to it's our intent to donate it to the Lake Ripley Management District. We're looking at the possibility of, at least it's in concept, that we would like to, if possible, connect the Lake Ripley Management District's property by trail to a trail around the wetlands as part of the subdivision. So it's just my intent to, this has been an ongoing process. We're in the early stages of design and permitting, and just to stay tuned as it progresses. There are a number of permits that we need to get in place before it can proceed, including stormwater management, the final plat approval permitting. And if there's any questions, I'd entertain those. Otherwise, it's just an update as to where we're at.
Thank you for coming and letting us know where things are at. We appreciate that.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
All right, we've had minutes from the September 21st, 2024 board meeting. We're in your packet. If you can take a moment and review those again, and then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve December 21st, 2024 minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we can move on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, this is for the month ending September 30th. Receipts for the period was $4,594.53. We received 2 LPL grant payments, one of $39.24 and one of $655.53. And Leanna had mentioned in her report that grant is closed out. We also received a $15 law firm garnishment fee for the work that we have to do for garnishment for one of our employees. Disbursements for the period were $17,387.24. We have $50 in petty cash. We have at that time, we had $172,196.49 in the checking account. And as of the end of September, the 2 CDs, the one is the money from the loan, which has $106,378.56. And then the restricted funds is the other one, and that has 105, 469.20. The only thing to note from the Visa bill was that we put the copier rental on it, and I didn't realize until I was getting ready for the meeting that that was put into account 666 and it should have been 605. So when we go to this expense worksheet, there's been a little bit of change just because of that, because the cost of the rental was $499.50. It's every 6 months. I don't know if there was anything in the disbursements that you would have any question about.
I wondered what EMC stands for.
Insurance. That's our insurance. Is that right, Debbie?
Yeah, it's the workman's comp, and I am going to talk about that a little bit when I get into the expense worksheet.
Okay.
More. I mean, I guess if you want me, I can talk about it now, because that's one of the accounts that we're over on, the workman's comp, and that's because I brought the stuff with me, bottom of my pile here, the coding that they were giving to Andrew and Dwight, they were putting them under weed harvest, as a weed harvester, which their rate for workman's compensation was $6.19 per 100. And when Leanna and I had a meeting with, well, I guess it was an audit, I guess it was called.
Yep.
He suggested that they should actually be under something called sanitary districts, which is $1.76 per 100. And we got notification, they added 2 classifications to the insurance through that audit, and we were told we had to pay that $11.83 or we were going to not have workman's comp insurance while this was processing, because it took a long time for us to for EMC to get the information and acknowledge the changes that should be made. And then, but I was told that they're supposed to refigure it and we should be getting a reimbursement. So now we have the acknowledgement that that has changed. Now we just got to wait for the process to get the reimbursement. So that's why I held off. Jimmy and I had said we should hold off on paying that, hoping that this would all be settled before we got to a point where we weren't going to have insurance. But it was taking too long, and so I thought I could just pay $500, and I went online and I had to pay the whole thing. So that's, it's a lot of money in workman's comp, and like I said, I had, that was one of the areas where I said that it's like we're over by $1,500, I believe, from the budget. Because if they would take that back and refigure it, we would be about where we thought we should be. All of a sudden, we got this large bill, and it's like, why? Well, and in hindsight now, because these positions were added, we never explained to them what they did. They just put them in that category. And it wasn't a big deal. Like, I never noticed a big change in the price because they worked few hours.
Yeah.
Well, when Andrew, his W-2 was like for over $10,000 because of him also being the lake manager temporarily. And you can't choose what category you put him in. That's what they told me. So because of his wages being that high, that was why all of a sudden there was a sudden increase. So hopefully we have it fixed, and going forward everything should be set.
Thank you for all that, Debbie. It was a lot of work, and I appreciate your help through all that.
Well, it was good, I mean, you called and set it up, and I made some phone calls, and so, like I said, hopefully this reimbursement check comes through, that they'll honor what they told me. Because I talked to the person that's in charge of doing that, so I'm thinking just like everything that's come from them, it takes a while. I mean, I can always follow up with her again if I need to. But I felt good about getting this, because this we just got last week, I think. That at least we now have other categories to put them into, so that the workman's comp rate shouldn't be so high. Because they were under like fertilizer application specialist and drivers. Well, they're not doing the kind of stuff that weed harvesters are doing. So,
It probably triggered on the word harvester.
right. So, and I mentioned it a little bit, I think, at the last meeting that we were working on that. But now I was going to explain, you know, because we were over budget, this is what's all happened, and hopefully by the end of the year, we won't be over budget.
All right. Anything else?
I think, like, before we get into this expense worksheet, you probably want the approval of that financial report,
All
right?
And I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, which one of you seconded? Was it Doug or Steve? It was
Doug.
Doug. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, Debbie.
All right, so now, like I said, there was a change in 666 to 605, so then we're not over budget in 666. We're done with our operators' wages for the year, I believe. I got the last payroll this week. And so we budgeted 6,500 and we spent 6,650. So we were under budget for them for this year. The two places that we are over budget was the workman's comp, which I explained, and then the legal fees. If you see, we had $29.50 was the one bill, and then there's another bill for $13.25 that I paid I just paid in October. So we spent $42.75, and budgeted, I think, was, I thought I wrote that down. Legal fees, $1,500. But I do want to explain about that because I went through it. The open records request cost us about $1,925.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's part of the reason that it's over. And then the bylaws changes was like $1,475 of that. And those are things that aren't going to happen all the time. So, I mean, we hope there aren't going to be more open records requests. But I just thought we should know how much that request cost the district.
Could you say that amount again?
$1,925, approximately. Because some of them were like for two things, so I kind of split it.
And the bylaws changed?
$1,475.
Okay.
So when you
Thank you.
take that out of the amount, you know, then it doesn't look so bad. I mean, those aren't normal legal expenses. And I don't know, so that's pretty much what I had from going over it. I don't know if you had any questions or comments about anything. If you wonder why I've put the wages out all the way through the year, because Leanna's wages don't change, so that's her wages monthly, and that way it gives her a better idea of, because Dwight and Andrew's pay also goes under that, most of theirs goes under that, because that's where we've budgeted money for both of them, so that gives her a better idea where she is. I've decided to start doing that so she knows where she is at, you know, currently, like where she is with their pay, how much more she can use them, I guess.
It's helpful, thank you.
All right, any further discussion or questions?
This is more informational. I don't think it's just something that it says that I think I'm supposed to report to you like quarterly or something like that. So, I mean, you get information monthly, but I think it's helpful to have the expense worksheet quarterly also.
It really
And it's useful
is.
to know how that legal was broken down, too.
Absolutely.
I
Thank
thought
you
of
for
that
that.
this morning.
Well, it's really helpful to us, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie.
Great. Okay, we don't have a Town of Oakland representative up today present, but I believe you got an update.
I do. Laura technically isn't the representative quite yet. They're still working on that at the town level, but she did send me a brief text message with some reports, which isn't a lot. She hasn't been able to confirm with Jewel when the culvert by a resident's house will be completed, but she is still working on some Park Road things. The road is fully functional. There's just some, small details that they need to finish up at the town level, so she's working through that. There is a small proposed subdivision. It's on hold until the DOT makes a decision about access to Highway 18. So that was the subdivision I told you guys about during the last meeting to the west of Shore Place. So they're still working through those decisions. And she stated that Mr. Didion would be here today to chat about the development. So thanks for coming. I appreciate you being here. And that they'll work through those. So those were the few updates that Laura had for us.
Great. All right. Jefferson County Representative update. There isn't much that is relevant to the town. The only thing I was going to note is we did, you will probably recall, we did a groundwater study. And that was being done by Stevens Point, and they did that for the entire county. There were some important things around Lake Ripley having to do with nitrates in drinking water, as well as salt, essentially, in drinking water. We're expecting to have the finalized report and dashboard to us shortly. We've seen them in draft. And after that comes up, there will be a public meeting for that. And people will likely be invited to bring water samples to get an initial screening. And that screening, once again, tells them if they should get a full analysis of their water. It kind of is like a first step. And that is free from the county. The county can also do that through the Public Health Department or through Land and Water Conservation District at any point in time. So, but that is going to be something that'll come out, and to kind of keep an eye on if that public notice comes out. If it gets announced when we don't have a meeting, I'll try to let you know.
That'd be
so
great.
that you can email people. But
you don't have the date yet, right?
don't have the
Okay.
date yet because they haven't finalized. They're supposed to have it to us by our next meeting, which is November 20th.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
great. All right, any questions on that? Wonderful. Okay, Leanna, the lake managers report and correspondence.
Awesome. So I'll go over Tony and Andrew's reports briefly first. I did send them to everybody so you can read them all. I'll start with Tony. Tony is our Clean Boats, Clean Waters representative. This is his third season doing it. I get so many compliments about Tony. He's really personable. He knows the lake really well. He has a passion for it because he lives around the lake, so he's a really good representative to have down there. Just some key things that I wanted to point out was he noticed that this summer was quieter than last summer, which is interesting. There were a total of 1,120 boaters that utilized the boat ramp facilities during the period from Memorial Day through the weekend before Labor Day weekend. He didn't work Labor Day weekend because he had a family wedding. I obviously told him he didn't have to do that and he could go to the wedding. So typically we do monitor through Labor Day, but this year was a little different. I also think it's interesting, Tony's not there the entire day, right? This captures 5 hours on weekends and Thursdays. So just keep that in mind when that number you see, you know, there's obviously going to be a little more boat traffic. We don't capture it all. This is just what he captures during that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday range, which is huge. I mean, that's a lot of, most of our boat traffic. I just wanted to share that caveat.
And we also had a really rainy spring, and then we had high water, so
We
I don't
did.
know if that affected some of those numbers.
That's a good point. Thanks for mentioning
yeah,
that. We
it
had a
is.
lot of rain early in the spring, and then we had almost 2 weeks of emergency slow no wake, and that was right at the beginning of June. So good point, Meg. There were 533 less boaters, or a 32% drop from this year. Ski boat numbers were down 60% from last year. And fishing was down 12% from last year. I thought that was interesting. Just some highlights in his report that I wanted to mention to you. And read the whole thing. It'll be online for anybody that's interested.
I noticed also, though, that he said that the fishermen themselves were very positive about what they had been catching.
Yes, and
So it's not that people aren't coming because there's no fish.
right.
Yeah.
No, we have a really great fishery, actually. I just chatted with Mark Baldock. He's the fisheries technician for the DNR, and they're going to be doing some fish surveys this spring. So I'm hoping to get out there with them. Actually, this fall yet, pardon me. And not this week that's coming up, but the following. So hopefully if they bring a boat that's big enough, I can join them for a day. Yeah, that's a good point. Tony did mention that he saw a couple of really nice fish when he was at the launch. And that doesn't surprise me. Last year when I went out, I saw some incredible fish. So I know our fishery is thriving. So Tony did a great job. I want to say a big thanks to Tony. I'll move on to Andrew's. Andrew also did a great job. Some of these things, you may read them and be like, you know, it doesn't seem as much as Dwight perhaps or Tony, but the preserve wouldn't run well without Andrew around. So I really am grateful for Andrew being here. One of the highlights I want to point out is we did a really interesting flood lane experiment. And this was something Andrew and I had been chatting about over the last couple of years. And it's just taking essentially a brush mower and making that floodplain a little more even with the wetland and not having so many high, tall plants like cattails and reed canary grass impede that water from getting into our wetland. And when it did rain heavy, we could see results. And that water was coming into our wetland, which just helps our thoughts and our experiments and what we're thinking lead towards this inlet stream restoration project. You know, we're on the right track. We're doing these things that we know are going to work. So that was huge. That's where the nutrients and sediments are going to go, and that's where we want them to go. And that's why we have this land and look at other lands to purchase, you know. So that was a huge one. And he did a ton of stuff. Reed canary grass, water quality monitoring, you know, when others can't do their tasks, Andrew always filled in for them. So he did a lot of miscellaneous things like water quality monitoring, citizen lake monitoring. He did the percolate sampling, which was the fireworks, which will be interesting. If y'all remember me telling you about that was a nationwide survey that we participated in. He did all the carp gate installation and maintenance. He assisted ERC with Phragmites management. He did all the ditch plug inspections, which one of them we might fix in the next couple years. He did trail maintenance, trail camera operation, boat prep, vegetation meander surveys, took care of the FEMA property, took care of that camera, did the lake use boat count survey with us. You know, everything that's trail maintenance, he took care of this year. Shatter cane, all the invasive stuff. So he's a huge help. Read his report thoroughly. That'll also be online for everybody. Yeah.
Can I get a copy of that? It didn't come through in my email for some reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely
I don't know
will.
why. I mean, I just double checked again and I'm not finding it.
It was
in
the
there.
last one that I sent yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, but all I got was the lake manager's report. with
Okay,
that.
absolutely. In fact, here, you can have this one. Would you mind passing that to Meg?
Great, thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. So they both did really great work, and I appreciate all their help that they do for us. It's very invaluable to me. Moving on to my lake manager's report, it felt like a really quick week. I feel like I just saw you guys last weekend. It went really quick. Month. Not a week, a month. It was a really quick month for me.
It felt like a week.
Honestly, it did. So a lot of the normal administration stuff, payroll, you know, insurance, working through that still, agendas, things like that. Our cost share program is going really well. Shore Place is done with theirs. I sent all the reimbursement paperwork over to Debbie. We'll be reimbursing them shortly. We got down.
The check went in the mail.
Perfect, checks in the mail. We headed down to the county, signed all that soil and water agreement easement with the district and for the county, so it's on their deed for the next 10 years. They will maintain that, and that's a great benefit to the lake. There's some really cool signage down there. If you ever walk Ripley Road, make sure you stop by Shore Place. They have a really good little kiosk that says Lake Ripley Management District, help us do this. And they even have a little QR code that links to our website, so pretty cool. Happy to have that done. Willerup has started their cost share. We're still working through that one, not quite done yet, so needs to be some work before any reimbursement can occur. And then Sleepy Hollow cost share project was set to begin next week, Monday. And then it dawned on me, that's a critical habitat area officially now. So we need permits for that. So reached out to the homeowner, and we're working through getting that permitting done, and that should be fairly quick and easy. I'm also working with Erin Cox. She's the water management specialist for the DNR, so getting that done. Under grants, I'm going to start working on my Clean Boats, Clean Waters reimbursement pretty soon, so we can get reimbursed for that. And then this month, it's been a lot of time spent on those 3 grants that I'm applying for. A lot of work with Stantec, a lot of talks with the DNR, a lot of talks with the county. You have to have so much external support with these grants that I'm making all those face-to-face meetings and making these grants stronger. So have a couple more grant discussions with Michelle Nault, who's an aquatic plant expert, and Arthur Watkinson next week to discuss possibly genetically testing our Eurasian water milfoil. Most of the time you don't know when it's hybrid, and sometimes there's benefits and pros to knowing what kind of genetic strain it is in our lake and what kind of management you do with these different genetic strains. So we'll be chatting with Michelle Nault about that. She's an expert, so that'll be interesting. I'll give you guys an update next month. Inlet Stream Restoration Project, we have officially signed the proposal. That took a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of standards, terms, and conditions that our legal team needed to review to make sure that, you know, everything is good to go. So we signed that, and we're excited. We're going to start our activities pretty soon here. I would say, you know, early November, we'll start doing some work out there, which is pretty exciting. Zebra mussels, we did remove all those. Debbie contacted me, and then a previous board member, Craig, contacted me and said zebra mussels were crazy this year. And that's really interesting to me. The 1 year that we start the zebra mussel study, it's a boom. So I did count them all, and I sent off our survey results. However, those results are kind of inconclusive because we started this survey late in the season when we should have started earlier, and 2 of the samplers actually fell off. The rope wasn't strong enough, so one of them was buried in the sediment for, you know, probably at least a month because Dwight checked them every month and he'd been gone about that long. And then the other one, luckily, the homeowner had found and he was able to retie it up to his pier. So those results aren't going to be what we want. But we knew that this was kind of a trial year. That's why we didn't start that early in the season, and we're going to have different goals and more defined actions next time around. So it'll be interesting. Meg?
The rope wasn't strong enough?
Yeah, the rope broke, and
I mean, is that because it was so laden with zebra mussels, or
no,
was it,
I
okay.
think it was just where it was. It was kind of a high wave energy area, and I think just over time,
It
maybe
just
it
frayed or
wiggled loose or
whatever.
frayed, yeah.
Okay. I
So.
just was thinking, oh my God.
No, not that bad, not that bad. Park Road update, I did have another meeting with Nathan Lipinski. I met him down at Park Road just because he wants to get my input on when these erosion control barriers should be removed. And I mean, it's a state statute thing. They can't be removed until the vegetation is permanently stabilized. So I gave him some advice on which ones to remove and which ones to keep down until that outlet is fully protected. So we chatted about that. We've done some work with Koshkonong Trail students, so big thanks to them, and big thanks to my 2 volunteers, Pam Dollard and John Tilp, have been helping out a lot. And thanks to Debbie for giving me the connection to some volunteers in Jefferson. I got about 20 adults coming out on November 14th for some seed collection. So if anybody's interested in joining us that day, please do. We would love to have some extra hands.
They reached out to the food pantry, and I didn't have a use for them. And I'm like, well, could you use them?
Sure can.
What, is it a particular group?
Generac?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. And lastly, weed harvesting. If you can tell, it's gone. The weed harvester is no longer in the parking lot. We have removed it from the lake. Everybody winterized it, thanks to our crew, Richard Moen, Leo Allen, Jim Germain, and a big thanks to Tom Hensel. He's the one that transports all of our harvesting equipment back and forth. So that went off without a bang. No issues, and that's what I love when that happens. So quick month, but good month. Any questions for me?
Yeah, I have a question. For
Yeah.
the inlet stream restoration project,
Yeah.
you indicated that you had to do, the lawyers had to take a look at that.
Yeah.
And with all the Ts and the Cs. Is that included in the invoicing we've already received from our legal team, or should we expect more?
We should expect more. And we are working with our legal counsel regarding land acquisition at the moment too. So we're in the very beginnings of that. But I would say yes, for the rest of the year, we could likely expect more.
Okay.
At the last meeting, we also approved looking into whether or not we wanted to do a building on this site. Has anything happened with that?
There has been a small development. There has been a potential land acquisition that we'll be looking into. So yes and no. We want to explore this potential land acquisition first and revisit the storage building on this property if that falls through.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Any other questions? Awesome. Thanks,
All
guys.
right. New business, grant resolutions, discussion, and possible action.
Awesome. So I have 3 grant resolutions. I'll ask for each one to be approved separately. The first one is for a surface water education grant. So this grant specifically, and I can send you guys all these grants once they're finalized and I send them to the DNR, but this one specifically is to help move forward the activities in our lake management plan. There are specific surveys that the DNR not requires, they're not mandatory per se, but they're expected. They're, you know, you should do them to make sure that your lake data is consistent and you have it. So 5-year lake surveys is the shoreland and shallow survey, the coarse woody habitat survey, aquatic plant inventory survey, genetic testing for the milfoil, those routine things that you do every 5 years. That's what's in this grant specifically. So it's going to be about a $20,000 grant. There's about 5 surveys that are included with it, and all of them are things that the DNR wants you to do. And I have gotten help from the DNR and the county and actually UW Extension for tasks within this. So this is a well-supported grant.
And my understanding is with what these are is DNR requires that you get a resolution from the management district in order to proceed with the grant application.
Yes, thank you. That's a good explanation. They asked for this. It's an authorizing resolution. The board is authorizing me to fill out a grant and submit it to the DNR and sign paperwork related to this specific grant. Thanks, Meg. I think that's helpful.
All right. Are there any questions about this process? Then we probably should deal with these one at a time. So I would entertain a motion on the surface water education grant.
I'll make a motion to
Doug.
move forward with grant resolution number 2025-1, which is the
I'll second.
surface water education.
I'll second it.
Steve seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
All right, that one passes. I would entertain a motion on the surface water planning grant.
I'll make a motion to approve surface water grant authorization 2025-2.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
What's the dollar value
I'll
on
have
that?
some
I was just-
discussion. Yeah, thank you. This one's a little different. This one is going to be tasks that Stantec, and directly related to the inlet stream restoration project. I'm trying to get some money from the DNR to help us do some of these tasks. So the banks survey will be included in that. The installation of piezometers will be included in that. Water quality monitoring is going to be the biggest cost that's included in that. And then monies for our water quality technician. Hopefully we can get them to give us the money to help fund Dwight's position, and that takes a lot of time. Besides our regular, already budgeted water quality that we do, that we fund ourselves, you know, that's going to be a lot more hours and a lot more time. So this one is more related to the inlet stream restoration project. Thank you. And it's about, well, good question, I'm not sure. It could be $50,000, it could be $25,000. I haven't done the full budget for that one yet.
Oh, okay,
I'll let you know in December.
okay.
Okay, great. And any further discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one passes. And then I would entertain a motion on the Clean Boats, Clean Waters grant.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I will say that this one is going to be $4,000. That's what they cap it at, so that's how much you can apply for. We'll do the full 200 hours as we do every year, and this one is pretty easy, and you know, we do it every year.
Okay. Any questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, that passes. All right, moving on to old business. Is there any old business?
I'm going to bring this up here because I missed it earlier, but in the minutes, it talked about the mill rate, and I got the certified value for the Lake District. The certified value was $430,842,156. So our mill rate is $50.50 per 100,000 this year, because our budget was $217,556. Last year, we were at $48.37. But it was $396 million in 2024, so I'm not real sure that the new appraisals are reflected in this certified value, because I would have thought there would have been a larger increase. And so next year, it may be, it might really go up. But, I had brought this along to share. I filled out the PC 505, which we're required to do, which says what our budget was. And then the letters were sent to both the town of Oakland and the village of Cambridge for them to levy on the tax bill for our budget.
Thank you.
Deb, could you repeat the amount per, 100,000?
$50.50.
$50.50.
Okay,
For,
that's what I thought, but,
on this
okay.
upcoming tax
Thank
bill
you.
that's the mill rate, so.
Great. Anything else?
Nope, but I was like, I had that here, and I thought I should update you on where that was from the minutes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Are there any announcements? No? All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned
Awesome.
at
9:30.